What is up, guys? Tom here, and welcome to another Forza Motorsport 6 video, and welcome to a sort of new mini-series that I suppose is going to be going on my channel. And basically what this is I want to find out what the fastest race car is in Forza Motorsport 6. Now, unlike Forza Motorsport 5, Forza 6 has a lot more racing cars, and when I say racing cars, I mean cars like this Aston Martin that you can see now. Sort of cars that people race professionally. They're not road legal cars like the Formula 1 cars, GT cars, touring cars, that kind of thing. So there is quite a lot of them in the game, but I want to test them all and see which one the fastest is. So the way I'm going to do these videos is I'm going to do 10 cars and show you their laps in each video. If you think these episodes are slightly too long, because I think they're going to be about nearly half an hour long, so I can kind of cut out the middle of the lap if you want that, but for this episode I'm just going to show it all, so there's no kind of cuts apart from it, so it just shows you the laps. It's going to be 10 laps, because these laps are about 2 to 2.5 minutes long, depending on how fast the car is. So I might, for the slower ones, I may want to cut the middle of the lap out. So if you want me to do that, put it down in the comment section below. So obviously, if I wanted to test these cars and see how fast they were, when I say fast, I mean around the track, not in a straight line, I needed a track to test on, to obviously be hot lapping around that track. So I needed a track that had everything, long straights, that basically could just test the cars to the very, very limit. And when I thought of that, there were two tracks that came to mind. One was Spa, and the other one was the Nürburgring. But you can't really use the Nürburgring because the lap is about 8 minutes. So yeah, it can't really do that. So it was obviously going to have to be Spa. I was thinking Spa anyway, so it's not like I got the second choice. Spa was going to be the one. It's just Nürburgring. I thought maybe, but no, it's just stupidly long. So anyway, now I have the track. I know what I'm doing. I know how I'm going to do it. So now it was time to do it. So let's have a look at some of the laps here. So as you can see, the first lap was in the SRT GTSR GT car. Now this is a low R class. It has a PI of 825, and if some of the people who are new to Forza or don't have Forza, what that basically means is every car has a class. So it has, like, you've got classes like A, B, C, D, E. E being the lowest, then so it works up to A. Then the next class up is S, then R, then P, then X. X being Formula 1 cars, P being LMP cars, S being like hypercars, supercars, and then R class is also some hypercars and then some racing cars. So this is towards the lower end of R. So there are obviously some super hypercars that have a higher like PI, and PI is the number, which is, this one is 825. So R class is 800 to 900. So it shows you how far it is into that class. So in P class is 900 to 998, and then X is 999. So that's like the top class. So that's how the class system works in Forza 6. This was towards the bottom end of R class with some of the hypercars. So I wasn't expecting it to be too quick. It was rear-wheel drive. It has 475 horsepower, so it isn't really that powerful. Because before I took this out before actually looking at the power. And because some of the other cars that SRT make, the road cars, one of them is the Viper, which some of you should be familiar with, which is obviously they're American. I was expecting it, because the Viper is very drifty, very, very powerful. If you just put your foot down, it just spins the wheels. But this car wasn't. It's not too powerful. It has 420 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs 2,745 pounds, which obviously helps the wheel spinning the wheels, because obviously it's heavier, it gives you more control. It allows you to put the power down a lot better. So the SRT GTSR did it in 2 minutes 25.860. So a medium lap time, not too bad, not absolutely amazingly fast, but it was a decent lap time. So the second car is the Toyota GT1 TS020. It's got quite a technical name, but yeah, this car was very quick. So this is, like I said in the beginning, like the types of race cars. This is an LMP car, so it's the kind of cars that race like in the endurance races, like 24-hour races and that kind of thing. For some people who aren't really familiar with some sorts of motor racing. So again, using the class system, Forza, this is towards the higher end of P class. This is a P973, so it is quite far up there. Getting towards X class, this is a very, very, very quick car. Now, traditionally, these cars are rear-wheel drive, and this car is no different. It is rear-wheel drive. It has 600 horsepower, so significantly more powerful than the Viper. It has 479 foot-pounds of torque, so not as much as the Viper, but it weighs a lot less. It nearly weighs 1,000 pounds less. This car weighs 1,991 pounds, so it's not heavy at all, which is obviously what gives it its good top speed, its acceleration. Obviously, it's a lot more aerodynamic. It's a lot lower to the ground. It's got a much better centre of gravity. So that's why this car went so quick around this track, especially with the high-speed corners, especially El Rouge and Blanchimont. The way that the car's shaped and the aero definitely helped it through these corners as it goes flying through here. And then it's sort of like through the slow-speed corners, like the bus stop here. The chicane, it still handled pretty well. You were able to put the power down well out of the corners. There was no problems with it, and it did it in a 2:05.489, which is significantly quicker than the SRT. So that was a very, very quick car, one of the quickest that I tested first here. So the third car I went out and tested was the Volvo Polestar S60 STCC. Which I don't know what S stands for, but I know TCC stands for Touring Car Championship. So it's something Touring Car Championships, as I like Southern Touring Car Championships. Obviously, like BTTC means the British Touring Car Championship. I don't know what the S stands for, but this is a touring car. And this is mid-S class, so it's not very quick. It can be beaten by road cars like the hypercars, like the McLaren P1 and those kind of cars can beat this, but obviously when it races against cars that are very, very similar. So yeah, this is mid S class. It's 753. It's rear-wheel drive, which all the cars I have tested so far are. It has 420 horsepower. Which is similar to the Viper almost, not too far off, but obviously it's definitely not as good. It has 304 foot-pounds of torque, so it's not very torquey, and it weighs 2,746 pounds. So although it's lower than Viper, it can't really compete with it because it's just not got enough power, not got that straight line speed. And it's not really as aerodynamic. It's got the big wing, so it obviously has a lot of downforce. This car, it was fine. It wasn't anything special. It was easy to control. Obviously, it's not really that fast. That's the same thing with some of the LMP cars. They're very, very hard to control because they can be very, very, very quick. Visibility was fine out at the front of this car. You could see okay. It was just an all-round decent car. Obviously, it's not going to be that quick because touring cars are towards the bottom, kind of the racing kind of pyramid. They're not really that fast. Obviously, Formula 1 being at the top. So the Volvo did it in a time of 2:35.461. So it was 10 seconds slower than the SRT, because that's the nearest car that we can compare it to at the moment. But the next car that I decided to go out and test was the Peugeot. sorry about that. Was the Peugeot 908 LMP car. Obviously, like I said before, the cars that race at Le Mans. Now, this was the top of P class. This is the highest you can get in P class. It was 998. It was rear-wheel drive. It has 700 horsepower, so it's very, very powerful. 885 pounds torque. Only 2,039 pounds. Very light. I was expecting this car to be blisteringly fast, to blow everything away, just to push everything aside and absolutely destroy the competition. But it didn't. I don't really know what went wrong with this car. I gave it the same amount of laps as all the others. It didn't seem to get out of corners very well. It didn't really accelerate great. The Toyota, I felt, was definitely easier to drive. It felt like a better car to drive. The visibility was better in the Toyota. This car, I don't know. It just didn't really seem to almost work how it felt like it should. I don't know if it's my driving style. Maybe my driving style doesn't suit it. But I drove all these cars the same way. I tried to push them all equally as hard and favour any of the other cars. It just didn't seem to work very well. The Peugeot, I say it didn't do it very well, it still went pretty quick. It did it in 2:06. See, that is only a second off the Toyota, but it should have been a lot faster with a much higher, with a PI as high as that. So anyway, the fifth car that I decided to test was the Radical SR8RX. And with a name like Radical, you would expect this thing to be pretty quick. But looking at it, it looks like an LMP car, but it's not really. I don't actually know what kind of class of car this is in. It's sort of like open top racing. It's not an LMP car. It actually is towards the top of R class. It's R908. It's rear-wheel drive. It's not very powerful. It only has 460 horsepower compared to the other cars here, but it only has 260 foot-pounds of torque, but it is extremely light, like seriously light. It only weighs 1,433 pounds, but with the low amount of power on the straights, it struggled, but round the corners, it beat everything, especially in the slow-speed corners. The braking was seriously good, obviously, because it's so light. The acceleration was seriously quick. So the cornering, the braking, the acceleration were the main, the best things about this car. It lacked in straight line speed, but apart from that, it did pretty much everything else very well. The only thing is, it kind of sometimes you get this weird understeery oversteer sort of thing through some of the high speed corners. On this particular lap that you're looking at now, it didn't really happen, but especially coming up El Rouge, you kind of understeer and then the back end will suddenly kick out. It just seemed a bit weird, so maybe it's not very consistent, but it's still a very quick car. Maybe not the best for this kind of track, where we've got quite a few straights, but on a more twisty track, this car will probably be a lot higher up. But this car did it in a 2:21.144, which meant it did go faster than the SRT. Obviously, the SRT was able to keep up because it had the straight line speed, and the Radical didn't. But the SRT didn't really lose too much in the corners. But the next car I decided to test was the Nissan GTR LM Nismo. Now, this car is a prototype. When I say all these cars, all the LMPs are prototypes because it's not based on anything. But this car raced at Le Mans, didn't do very well, and then I don't think they're going to race it anymore. So that just kind of says how good it's going to be. Now, this car had one massive problem with it. That's the fact it's front wheel drive. Now, obviously, rear wheel drive, your car is the power's going to the rear wheels, which means it allows you to slide it around corners. Front wheel drive is coming to the front. And that means if you're going around a corner, you put the power down, you're just going to understeer. It does the complete opposite to what a rear wheel drive car would do, which is oversteer, which is more controllable. So this car is extremely understeery, which means you have to be very careful through the high-speed corners, and you can't really push it that much. So that was a shame. If it was rear-wheel drive, it would go a lot quicker. This car was very similar to the Toyota. It was a P978. Had 768 horsepower, which is a hell of a lot of horsepower to be going to the front wheels. It's not a great combination. That's more horsepower than the Peugeot. But it had 889 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighed 2,138 pounds, which means it wasn't very heavy. Either it just didn't. I don't think if it was, like I said, if it was rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, it would have done 10 times better. But the front-wheel drive really hindered it and didn't allow it to go as fast as it probably could if it had a different drive terrain. So it did it in 2:9.481, which wasn't as fast as the other LMP cars, but yeah, it's an average time. It's not too bad. So moving on to the slowest car we had here. This is the Toyota Avensis. Sorry. Now I have no idea what this car is. It didn't say like the TCC or whatever. I presumed it was a touring car because of the speed, and it wasn't really that quick. So I just thought, well, it must be a touring car. So I'm just going to still assume that it is. So obviously, like I said, touring cars aren't really very kind of high in the like the racing kind of world. They're towards the bottom, I suppose. But the Toyota is a slight, just lower than kind of like midway through S-Class. It is a 733, S-Class 733. This car is also front-wheel drive, which just screamed touring car to me, because most touring cars are front-wheel drive. So that what made me think it was a touring car. It has 329 horsepower, which I suppose is okay, since it's going to the front wheels, not the rear. Obviously, I think you can get away with a lot more power if they go to the rear, or obviously all four if it's all-wheel drive. But this car has 265 foot-pounds of torque, so it's not great, and it weighs 2,425 pounds, which makes it lighter than the SRT. But even if it's lighter, it's down on horsepower. It's front-wheel drive, which I think hinders it more, just like the Nissan. And it's just not really that fast. It was an easy car to drive. It was a nice car to drive, actually. One of the nicest, but it wasn't one of the fastest. It was actually the slowest. So, you can't really have all of the positive things. It was a nice car to drive, but it definitely wasn't one of the fastest. I can't speak today. So anyway, it did it in time of 2:40.187, which means it was the slowest, and it went slower than the other Volvo touring car. So well done, Toyota. So let's move on to the Volvo GRM S60. Now this is a V8 supercar. When I say supercar, you obviously probably think road car, Aston Martin, Ferrari, those kind of cars. This isn't. This is the Australians going wild. This is the Australians' kind of touring car. This is their main type of motorsport. Because when you think supercar, you don't think Volvo, and you don't think a car that says Wilson Security on the side. But yeah, that's just a type of racing that they have. Well, it's technically not a supercar; they call it that anyway. So this car, it's not too shabby. It's S785, so it's towards the top of S class. But obviously, like I said, the road-going supercars can beat them, or hypercars can still beat these kind of cars. It has 750 horsepower, which is a decent amount of horsepower. That is going to the rear wheels, which obviously I think makes it better around the track. It has 487 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs 3,109 pounds. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the heaviest car that I tested here. Actually, no, it was tied for heaviest car. You'll see that coming up in a minute. But yeah, this car, it was decent to drive. It's actually a very, very good handling car. It went around corners, no problem. Visibility wasn't too bad. Now, I find with, because I've just finished like the V8 Supercars kind of like volume thing in the career mode, and the one I was driving, the Holden, the brakes I thought were terrible. It just didn't brake properly. The brakes on the Volvo were 10 times better. Like, so I know Volvo, I think, are new into the whole V8 Supercars. It was only Holden, Ford, but now I think Volvo, Mercedes, Nissan, they're getting into it. Now, so this is their kind of brand new car, 2015 car. So the brakes were very good. It was an all-around not too bad car to drive, controllable just like the other Volvo and Toyota. But again, you can't have it all. It wasn't really that fast. It did it in 2:30 dead, like 0.000, so it was a pretty good time. Went faster than the touring car, went faster than the Toyota Avensis. Having 6 even, but yeah, it was medium, not too bad. But now we move on to the fastest car that we tested in this set of 10, and that was the Peugeot 905 Evo 1C. Now, this car was pretty quick. It was P982, so it wasn't as high like PI as the other Peugeot, but it went faster. This car was just complete. It was just crazy. I have no idea how it did it though. That's the thing. It was rear wheel drive, so it was it was rear wheel drive, and it had 741 horsepower going to the rear wheels. It had 349 foot-pounds of torque. Now, I think this is where the Peugeot gained its advantage. It weighed 1,653 pounds, which is a lot less than the other Peugeot, and I think was the lightest car here, apart from the Radical, which I said was obviously the lightness is its main kind of thing. This car too, apart from it had more horsepower. So this car, it had very good downforce. It has a crazy wing on the back that was nearly scraping along the floor, which obviously gave it good downforce through the high-speed corners. It was completely flat through this section, which I can't really do in too many other cars. So yeah, this was very, very quick. It did it in a time of 2:03.997, which put it fastest. It was close to under the 2-minute mark. But yeah, didn't quite make it under that mark. But this was the fastest car that I tested. So then, now moving on to the final car of this part. And this is another V8 supercar, the second Nissan in this video. So, this is the other V8 supercar. This is the car that ties for weight with the Volvo. But I didn't like this anywhere near as much. To be honest, I despised driving this car. It was not great, to be honest. The wing is a bit weird as well. It overhangs massively. It just looks like it's off another car. It looks very, very strange. But anyway, the Nissan is S785, which is actually, trying to check here, the same as the Volvo. These cars are pretty similar. It has 668 horsepower going to the rear wheels, which is more than the Volvo. It has 484 foot-pounds of torque, which isn't as much as the Volvo. Obviously, I'm trying to directly compare these cars together, and it weighed exactly the same, 3,109 pounds. You see, the main thing that I didn't like about this car was the brakes. The brakes were terrible. Like, they were nowhere near as good as on the Volvo. It didn't stop. The amount of times I went into the bus stop, actually on this lap I think I go deep into the bus stop, because the car just doesn't brake. I don't know what's wrong with it. It's definitely not as good as the Volvo. It went very, very close, which just shows it is a faster car, but the brakes are what stops it. If the brakes were better, then they would be able to do it. I think this was one of the only clean laps I actually got with it. See, I go deep, I don't actually get the apex. Oh my god, I can't speak today. The apex of the corner. It just didn't. It just wasn't really that good. But anyway, guys, you have seen the first 10 race cars go around Spa. Now, let me know if you want to make these videos shorter. I can cut out the middle of the lap. Obviously, because this video is going to be quite long, it's actually going to be pretty close to half an hour long. So let me know if you want to cut these videos down. I can if you want to, but don't stay kind of quiet about it. Please just leave it in the comments section if you want me to do anything about it, rather than just not saying anything. Also, the video yesterday about my new editing, I actually didn't. The volume was actually louder than I thought it was going to be, so I think I'm just going to keep recording it like that anyway, because I thought that was fine. So anyway, guys, that has been the first part of this kind of Forza 6 mini-series. I hope you have enjoyed it, if you've managed to make it all the way here to the end, because obviously this video is quite long. Do excuse me for that. But anyway, guys, I've been Tom, and I will see you all later.